Hey there, Chris McCarthy here at San Francisco State. I've got a Geiger counter with me, a device for measuring radioactivity. Radioactive samples will produce high energy particles that can be detected with this detector. A sound is made whenever one is detected, and the first thing to do is measure how radioactive this air is and this room is that I'm in. It's just an ordinary room here at SF State, and you'll notice there are some beeps that are being produced by this Geiger counter. And the reason for that is that there are cosmic rays coming in from space. There are protons and electrons and other particles from space. There can even be naturally occurring substances that are somewhat radioactive. So that's what's called the background level. Have you heard that bananas are radioactive? It's true, they have potassium, and some potassium atoms are an isotope potassium-40, which emits radiation. Let's check out this banana right here. Doesn't seem to be very radioactive. That's good, because I've just been eating some bananas today. And it's very, very weak radiation. But most naturally occurring radiation is in small rocks. There are many different types of rocks, but these rocks here have naturally occurring uranium in them. Let's see what happens when you hold the Geiger counter near them. You can clearly tell there's more counts than background radiation. So that's an example of uranium. If you mine uranium, you can collect that, and indeed you can enrich it. There's two isotopes. Your U-235 is the more radioactive of the two. Another element that has radioactive isotopes is thorium. In the bad old days, thorium was made into these lantern mantles. Have you ever used one of these Coleman lanterns? Well, if you have it, you probably didn't use these mantles because they were banned a long time ago because they're quite radioactive. Now, this might alarm you, it might cause concern, so it's important to think about different types of radiation and how potentially harmful they are. Radiation can be harmful, especially if it gets inside our bodies. Let's see how we can screen ourselves from radiation. Here's our thorium, and it's an alpha particle emitter. It produces alpha particles. In your textbook, they say that alpha particles can be blocked simply by one piece of paper, so there's nothing to worry about. So let's try this. Here's one piece of paper. Let's see. Did it block them? Not so well, did it? How about a lot of pieces of paper in a notebook? Okay. So if you have some amount of paper, that's good enough to block alpha particles. Maybe not just one sheet, as your textbook says. Maybe you need more than that. What about this? This is a piece of metal. I think it's aluminum, a thick piece of aluminum. Does it block alpha particles? Why, yes, it does. So, in fact, alpha particles can be mostly blocked by our skin. So all the alpha particles that are coming off of here are just hitting my skin and not going any further. But that's not true for all types of radiation. And it's also not true if I were to eat some of these alpha emitters, then the radiation would be inside my body. That could cause some harm. But since our skin is dead, it's a good shield against alpha particles and some weaker types of radiation. Now, radiation isn't just harmful, it can make you safer. Do you have some radioactive waste in your bedroom? I do. I have one of these in my bedroom, actually in several houses. This is a smoke detector. smoke detectors actually have a small sample of americium. It's an element that is actually produced in nuclear waste. It also emits alpha particles. And if you cut one open, as I did with this one that was being thrown out, you'll see a small pellet there of americium, which is an alpha emitter. So let's see about this americium in my smoke detector. Yeah, it's still emitting alpha particles. That's good. You want it to. That's what makes the smoke detector work. The alpha particles ionize the air around this pellet, and that ionized air can carry a current. The current will not conduct if there's smoke inside the smoke detector. In that case, an alarm goes off, you wake up, and it saves your life. So something radioactive can save your life. Let's measure this again. And here's something interesting to note. Okay, if I hold the Geiger counter right next to the sample, there's a high count rate, but when I hold it up here, it's pretty weak. And up here, it's hardly different from background level. Well, what's going on there is the alpha particles are being emitted here, but most of them are actually getting stopped by the air itself. They bump into nitrogen and oxygen in the air. And that's one reason why it's actually quite safe to have a smoke detector in your house. You should have a few of them, in fact. But not everything people do with radiation is all that safe. One thing that people used to do in the bad old days was to cook and even eat out of something called Fiesta ware. This was a very shiny, beautifully glazed kind of pot. Do you see it there? And the reason it had this particular shine to it is that it was made with radioactive materials. Let's see how radioactive this pot is. Now, would you want to cook out of something like that? Yeah, so there's a reason they don't make this stuff anymore. It's not a good idea to be ingesting food that is in contact with something that's radioactive. If you just let radiation hit your food from a distance, it won't make your food radioactive. It might alter the nuclei of a few of the molecules in it, but you just don't want the radioactive particles, the radioactive emitters, inside your body. Let's see, what else do I have here? Oh yeah, by the way, here's something interesting. These are sources of gamma radiation. These small pellets are cobalt-60. They emit gamma radiation. I think they also emit beta radiation as well. And so let's just see how radioactive they are. Okay, definitely detectable. Now it seems kind of benign. The number of counts is not as large as with, say, the thorium mantles. But watch this. The radiation from the mantles can easily be blocked by a piece of metal. But what about these cobalt samples? All right, so the cobalt samples are here. I'm going to put the metal underneath them. And I think you can tell that the counts are still pretty high. Take it away. It's about the same. So what this means is that these sources are emitting fewer actual particles, but the particles are more energetic. They're actually more dangerous because they can go through a piece of paper, they can go through metal, they can even go through our skin. So the different types of radiation have different potential hazards based on not just the number of emissions, but also the energy of each particle emitted. few things to keep in mind. Always think about whether or not the radiation of a given source is above background level. And if it is, think about what kind of radiation it is. All right.